Hello. Sometimes I just need to show up and see what happens. I guess part of me wanted to share just pausing first to take a couple of breaths. You're welcome to join me. Just if we're fully be here, to be present, to drop into the body. For me, I've been having this experience of fear coming up lately. This belief, it can come and go, where there's moments where it feels really intense and moments where it's doom that something's going to happen. It's been really difficult to just be able to sit in that emotion and let it be there without the fear that it's creating about what's going to happen in the future, the should have, could have, would have, I should have known better, I should have done things differently, what's going to happen. The panic that those thoughts can create is intense. And having to bring myself back to the moment. This time it wasn't so much through mindfully being aware of the thoughts, but embracing that compassionate voice within. To allow myself to be my best friend and talk to myself in those moments. And to myself that everything is okay in this moment. In this moment. And even replaying the past. Is there really anything that I was doing the best that I could in every moment? I was showing up, I was taking some risks, and isn't that what the nature of life is? Nothing is guaranteed. But when the outcome doesn't go quite as planned, there's this lingering thought that comes back to take us back into that moment that things could have been different. When things go according to plan, that tendency of we can take ownership of that. I knew what to do in that moment, but did we really, or did the outcome just happen to be in our favor in that circumstance? So it's been a real practice for me in letting go of outcome, knowing that in the moment, and reminding myself, having my friend, my internal voice, remind me that the success wasn't in the outcome. That the outcome can seem uncertain right now. Maybe I could have done things differently. Maybe I will learn a lesson. But really, the success was in the willingness to show up, to take some risk. For me, the story was always around why I shouldn't do things, what I will have to lose by doing certain things. And so I challenged myself to show up in certain ways and to feel the uncomfortableness in that. Taking some big so-called chances, investing in life in a way that I really have never done before. I bought a house on my own, I moved. I've been doing all kinds of things that I never would have really thought I had in me to do before. And it wasn't really that I did those certain things. It was that when those opportunities came, I wasn't fixated on the thought patterns of why not to do something, all the reasons not to do it. That it was like giving myself permission finally to take a risk, to step up, to take to be available to opportunities that presented themselves and follow the course of where they might take me next, not knowing what that might be. And now it's easy, as I've bought the house and all these things have been happening, one sort of setback after another, flooding of the basement, maybe the mortgage closing not quite as I had liked, not quite as in my favor, it felt like at times, delays on getting some projects done, issues with the tenants. It can be easy to use all of that as evidence that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done this. And maybe in some ways, we can learn from it and maybe do things differently next time. But in that moment, reminding myself and talking myself out of all of the fear that the mind was creating, that I've got myself in too big of a hole, I can't get out. What's going to happen to me financially going forward? How am I going to be with all of these delays without any additional rental income? All of the stories, and this is just the particular story that my mind is creating, but really relating it to whatever story your mind might tell you, in whatever circumstance it might be. Maybe we take a step into a relationship and then things start coming up in the relationship. And we can use that all as a sign, oh, I shouldn't have been in that. I made the wrong choice. I shouldn't have been in that relationship. But really, how do we know? We're just doing things one step at a time, not knowing where it's going to take us, not knowing what the outcome is going to be. All of us making mistakes one after another, day by day as we go, maybe in some small little ways or maybe in bigger ways. So how do we be with that? Stepping into life, not knowing the uncertainty of the outcome. How do we be with that lingering thought that says I shoulda, coulda, woulda? Can we just observe that tendency to go back and label and judge without making ourselves wrong in the process, which is so often what we do. I was wrong. There's something wrong with me. I should have known. But yet, as we can look over our lives, we can see these patterns, right? That so often the outcome isn't in our favor. So does that have to mean that there's inherently something wrong with us? Because in truth, when we open up and express this and hear other people say the same thing, maybe in some ways that can help us alleviate this sense of personal responsibility. It's something inherently flawed with me. And I could watch my mind tell me those same stories, right? That I messed it all up. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have taken this big of a risk. Oh, you're just impulsive. All of the stories the mind will tell me about what I did and what I could have done, comparing my journey to other people's journey and what it's supposed to look like, how they would have dealt with it, telling me that, oh, it would only have happened to you. No one else would make the same mistake. But how can we foster a sense of compassion for that part? In each moment, we can look back our life and see how everything is in some way guiding us. All the lessons that we've learned along the journey. However, when it's in this moment, so often it feels so insurmountable, so completely wrong, so off course. So sometimes, and this has been my practice, is to remember the bigger picture. to remember the bigger picture. That in this moment, it might feel like a huge mistake. I might not see where this is taking me. I might not understand what's going on or why. Or if, maybe I won't be able to afford the house. Maybe it will be taken. Who knows? The worst case scenario, the mind wants to paint that picture and latch hold, keep me in this frightened state. Maybe that is a possibility. And this is telling the honest truth, right? We don't know. But then again, I could have a partner and we both could have put money into the house and something could happen too. And there could be some financial stress or strain. And maybe we could lose the house then too. However, the mind likes to paint the story of, if it was this way, then it would have been okay, right? If you had a partner to help you, then it would be okay. Then you wouldn't have the burden yourself. And that was part of the challenge, the reasons why I wanted to kind of step out in this way, buying the house. And again, this is just one example. Don't use this as necessarily meaning for you that it's about buying a house, but what is that thing that you might be waiting to do for the right moment? Scared to take that risk, scared to take that leap. What opportunity might be presenting itself to you that you don't lean into? And so that compassionate friend, that compassionate voice coming out, reminding me of the reasons why I chose what to do, why I chose to buy this house. Maybe it didn't go to plan, but the success was in that I felt the fear. I felt the fear of committing. I felt the fear of the financial obligation. I felt the fear of being maybe stuck. I felt all of those fears, and yet I leaned into the opportunity that presented itself. I didn't discount them. I took them in and I sat with them. Yes, there was some truth in all of them. And for me in that moment, it was a deciding point where I didn't want to buy into that fear, what all I would have to lose. Right? I've done that my whole life. And I think many of us do in many different ways, maybe in certain areas more than others, but focusing on the fear of what we might lose by doing something rather than what we might gain. And that was a practice for me this past year, was really reminding myself of what I might have to gain. So not just focusing, yes, there could be fear of financial ruin, fear of being financially stuck, fear of not being able to properly take care of attend to all of the needs of the home, fear of not being able to find tenants or find the right tenants, fear of losing my job and not being able to pay the mortgage. Basically, fear of losing the house in some way. And yet so often that's where my mind would stop. This is all the reasons not to do it. Whereas this time for me, it was different. And maybe many of you have already worked through this, maybe not, but this is the stage of my journey where it was really reminding myself of all the reasons why I can do something. That I might gain resiliency. I might gain the ability to see what I'm really capable of. I might be able to financially make money off of the deal. I might be able to have some sort of create some sort of oasis for me to live in while I'm here. And what do I have to gain? And for me, looking back, even though there's those moments of fear and terror of all that I might have to might lose again, especially financially right now, it's also looking back over the journey and seeing everything that I've gained through doing this. So maybe not just what I think I might have to gain, but what did I actually gain from this experience? Well, I gained a sense of resiliency. I had many moments of surrender where it took me beyond my capacity within myself, feeling completely overwhelmed and not sure where to go. Just brought me to my knees of surrender, asking for help. It's shown me that I'm capable of doing a lot more than I think I can. It's pushed me to stay committed to my job, to stay committed to life. It's enabled me to see where I need to set boundaries in certain relationships. It's also pushed me to, for me personally, sometimes I deprive myself of the things that I actually want. And it's kind of opened up the door for me to give myself permission to actually enjoy some of the things in life that I've never previously allowed myself to enjoy. Creating this beautiful sanctuary also involved a lot of shopping for little things to create that sort of space that I wanted to create. Something I probably wouldn't have done before. I know I wouldn't have done before. Not to the same way, where I actually give myself permission to get the exact thing that I want rather than the cheapest thing I can find that will suit the purpose. It's helped connect me to the neighborhood. I've met a lot of my neighbors through buying this house and all the sort of ups and downs that have gone on since I've been here. So whatever it is for you, if it's in a relationship and a job, some other financial risk that you've taken, remembering, bringing ourselves back to the moment, to reflecting on all the reasons for making that decision, as well as all of the things that we've had to gain through that experience. That itself, for me, really recentering on where I am, that it's okay where I am, that I jumped into this not knowing where it was going to take me, and I don't know where it's going to take me. And also connecting it to everything else I've ever done in life, that I've done many different things in life, usually things that I didn't really want to do. And I didn't know where that was taking me either. Now I am doing the things that I want to do. And it's the same thing. I still don't know where it's going. So just noticing when we're stepping into that area of discomfort of living maybe the life that we actually want. And this has been something that's come up for me. And I tend to want to be in that being state where it's more of a being and a witnessing and an observing, a restful state. But this whole experience has pushed me into being more of a doer, more engaged, more participating in life. And I can see now how there was a resistance in me to that side of me that was the doer, the striver, the creator, feeling that that was somehow in the way. And I guess part of this experience has opened me up to seeing how there is place for both of those parts, to question some of my beliefs of what is the way to be, the right way to be. And this is what life is, continually evolving us through every experience. reshaping us, reconditioning us? And can I be open to that, to be reconditioned, reshaped, even when it's hard, even when it's difficult, even when I want to run away? And I just feel so grateful for the space to be able to share. It means so much to me to speak these words, to share the story, as I think it does all of us in some way. To be able to share our deepest truths, to share where we are on our journey. And re engage with that compassion and presence when it's hard. Because some moments are really hard, like can feel unbearable and overwhelming. And so, are we choosing to feed all of those thoughts, those unbearable, overwhelming thoughts? Or can we reframe our experience to remind ourselves that we're okay, we're doing the best we can in every moment? Why would we show up in ways that's less than the best that we can do? And doing the best we can do doesn't mean that we're super active and engaged. It's just doing what we think in that moment, we're the best way that we can, that we believe will give us happiness. And sometimes our best doesn't look at all like we think it should be. It can be easy to punish ourselves looking back on all the things that we should have known, but we only know what we know in the moment, and we're making decisions from there. We only know what we know. It's such a simple statement, but really profound in many ways. So often the torment of the mind is a presumption that we should have known more than we did. But we can only ever truly know what we know in any given moment. Otherwise, we would have to sit back and read all kinds of encyclopedias and study all kinds of different teachings before we'd even be able to live our lives. But yet we're born here, and it's like ready, set, go. You just go. You just live, and everything unfolds in the moment from whatever we know in that moment, knowing that it's always continually changing too. So it's both. We can never know what more than what we know in the moment, and we're always continually learning and growing through everything that happens. Right? Even if it's not learning something big or profound, maybe it's some small, I don't want to do that again, or that it's okay to change my mind, or it's powerful to commit to something, can shape us for how we show up in the next moment. So sometimes really reminding ourselves of that can be very helpful, to let go of some of the internal angst, I guess you could call it. Struggling with what is, struggling with how things are, struggling with why we are the way we are, how we show up. Which none of it really gets us anywhere, all that inner angst. So even asking ourselves, how would I show up without all of that burden? Thinking I need to know more than I know, thinking I should be doing more than I'm doing or less than I'm doing. Or the outcome means that there's something inherently wrong with me. when really that's a fact of, and the nature of life is that sometimes there's always outcomes that are not going to be as we like. So do I have to make a story about that, about me, about some deficiency in me that needs to be fixed? Or when the words don't come out quite right, that it's something wrong with me? So I guess it's two things that stand out that I just want to reinforce before, as we wrap up. It's just noticing the opportunities that arise and how maybe our stories of how it should be gets in the way. Or stories get in the way of taking opportunities, shutting opportunities down by focusing on all that we might have to lose. Or to just see what it's like to expand into what you might have to gain. And the success, defining success, not so much as in the outcome, but in the showing up to life, showing up to the opportunities, making yourself available, staying in the uncomfortableness at times. And the second piece, reminding ourselves really that we're doing the best that we can. That to shame and blame ourselves really gets us nowhere, aside from more shame and blame and discomfort and disconnection from life, ourself. So can I be kind to myself? Can I just do the best that I can? Can I trust that I'm doing the best that I can, even when the outcome isn't in my favor, even when the outcome doesn't appear to be in my favor? Can I come back to this moment rather than living in some future or past moment about the catastrophe that may come, and then flip-flopping back from the past and how it should have been different to prevent this catastrophe the mind paints about the future? Can I just be right here, not knowing, and the uncertainty that that brings, not knowing if or how things are working themselves out, where we're going, what's coming next? Is trusting that we've had the capacity to meet every challenge that's given to us. It might be hard, but no matter what, there's always a capacity within us to handle it. Just in this moment, just to be with it in this moment. I guess one other thing before we wrap up that I also wanted to share that I forgot about. Just doing a lot of the serenity prayer. So God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference has also been really helpful for me in reminding me, okay, I don't want this outcome to happen. What can I do right now? What is the next step? And if I've literally exhausted all the options to get the outcome that I want, can I accept it as it is? And that for me has been instrumentally helpful. And that I'm able to gauge and know, okay, so right now I just have to sit in the discomfort of not knowing because I've done everything that I can possibly think of to do, rather than chewing on the story of trying to find out, well, what else can I do? What else can I do? What else can I do? I need to be doing something. Can I just rest in the discomfort of not knowing where this is going? Taking the next obvious step. Maybe there's a step I can take, maybe not. So if there's no step I can take, can I just rest in that? If there is a step I can take, to have the courage to act on it, to do it, to not just say it, but to do it. Okay. Hopefully this was helpful in some way. Again, thank you so much for this space to share. Namaste.